Hi, welcome to The Lamp in the Library. I'm Graham.
I'm Kim.
And today we're going to be talking about the books that we hope to finish during the month of April.
So first up on my list is a book that I've already started, and it's The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion by Jonathan Haidt. And Haidt is a moral psychologist. That's what his field of study is, at least mostly within this book. He's now a psychology professor and speaks a lot on ethics. And this book is really looking at how people develop their sense of morals, where it comes from. The book provides a lot of different psychological research that's gone into really trying to understand how people develop the code of understanding that they have for the world around them, how they should live within that world, and what is right and what is wrong, what is morally good, what is morally bad. I'm really enjoying the book so far. Some of the studies I'd already been somewhat aware of, but he's really giving us a lot of information to take in. And I'm really hoping by the end of it, I have some of the tools to better listen to people who have differing opinions and communicate with people of differing opinions, because right now at the beginning of the book you're really given a lot of examples, scientific examples of why different people approach the world in different ways, and that we all look for confirmation bias. So we're always looking for the opinions and the facts that we believe support what we think, which leaves you in a little bit of a pessimistic state of the future of moving forward. But I do believe that as the book goes on, that it will also provide ways for us to live in a more engaged and open way.
That's great thing to think about right now, because a lot of people, they live in their internet bubbles, and it's hard for them to get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
To see the other points of view that are out there, and it just seems that social media and the internet have made that more difficult, not easier.
Yeah, and sometimes the communication tools that we use are really having the opposite impact than what we think they're having or we want them to have. So yeah, it's a really fascinating read so far.
Speaking of people not getting along, I am reading this book called The 30 Years' War by Veronica Wedgwood. And this book was written in the 1930s. And it is a fascinating look at this period of history, the 30 Years' War, which I knew absolutely nothing about this point in time. All I knew was that it was an incredible, complicated mess, and it is. But this book is so readable, and once you get into the flow of it, you really start to understand the hows and whys of this terrible conflict and the devastation that it wrought. And honestly, I think I picked it up during this pandemic year because it kind of puts things in context. And relentless misery seems to be, for whatever reason, somewhat calming and comforting at this time. So anyway, I'm actually quite enjoying this book. It's actually really, really good.
Next up on my list is The Mirror of the Heart, 1,000 Years of Persian Poetry by Women. And so far I've read the introduction to the book and some of the poems, and I'm really, really enjoying it. It has a really well-written introduction to help you to understand the history of Persian poetry, a little bit of the history of some of the authors that you'll find within it, and I'm just really enjoying it. And I enjoy the good translations that I can find of Persian poetry. So I was really delighted when I heard that Penguin Classics was releasing this book. It just came out in February of this year. So yeah, it's sort of something that I'll read a couple poems, put it down, read a couple poems, put it down, but I am hoping to finish it during April.
Another book I'm reading that is also a history. This is called Fifth Son by Camilla Townsend, and it is a new history of the Aztecs. And this is a recent book, and I think it's fascinating. The new twist that it has on the very well told story of the Aztecs, their rise and fall, is it is drawing almost exclusively from Nahuatl indigenous sources. So it doesn't have, like a lot of the histories of the Aztecs are based on Spanish sources largely, and there's some obvious biases there. And drawing from the Nahuatl sources is a way for you to give a better understanding of the incredible complexities of this society. When you're looking at it through this kind of Western lens, there's a tendency to not understand some of the things that would have been a given to the Aztecs themselves. So it's a really interesting book. I'm about a third of the way through, and incredibly complex, kind of like the 30 Years War book, but very, very readable, beautifully written, and I'm highly enjoying it.
Next up, I have the book A Wood of One's Own by Ruth Pavey. And the book looks at the author's experience with buying some land on auction in England that she wanted to turn into and maintain a wood. So she wanted to, just really have a space for lots of trees. And I picked it up because that is something that I am currently really trying to work at, planting more trees and providing a space for these trees to grow so that they have a wonderful life and help the earth in general with more tree planting. I think it's one of the simple steps that a lot of us could do, and it would have just a giant impact if more of us, maybe even most of us around the world, planted and looked after more trees. So I wanted to pick up this book to read about her experience.
Another book that I am hoping to finish in the month of April is one that's been sitting on my shelf for far, far too long. It's called 2312 by Stanley Robinson. And the other two books I'm reading are history, so what better time to read a future history? And this is a book that is kind of projecting hundreds of years into the future, into what humanity could achieve. It is very much a utopian book, or that is my understanding, and it'll be a nice contrast to the history of the Aztecs and the history of the 30-Year War, which at times can be incredibly heavy reads. So I'm hoping for something a little more hopeful to finish off the month.
And then my last selection for the month, it goes back into the heavy side of things, and it is the book The Jakarta Method by Vincent Bevins. I first heard about this book on a podcast, and my dad also listened to the same podcast and was really interested in it. So I gave the book as a gift to my dad last year, and then he was talking about it and how informative it is and good it is. So I asked if I could borrow it when he was done, and it looks at the US and how it went about trying to win the Cold War and the devastating implications of some of the methods that they used to do that, and how they still have resonance at right now during today at this moment. So it will no doubt be a rather heavy read, but I think an important read, because oftentimes our governments are doing things, even though I'm not American, but still are doing things that the citizens aren't totally aware of, and it's good to become more informed of some of the ways countries try to build up that sense of right and wrong and moral decisions. So I do see it playing partly in with what I learned from this book.
So that's what we're hoping to read in the month of April. What are you reading? Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you not like them? Let us know. And what are you planning on reading this month? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe below, and hit the bell so you always know when there's a new video.
Thanks for watching.
Keep reading.
And keep well.